So, hacking Terra Invicta save files. I've already done one video on this, but that's a few years ago, and I've been asked for an update. And given on the beta branch, which I'm actually on, they've just released a new start scenario, 2070. I figured now would be a good time to do that. So, first things first. If you're going to be editing the save file, you need to go into settings. I think I need to turn down the volume a bit here, just so that you can hear things. Let's take that down to about 20%. But there's one setting you do need to do. In gameplay, you need to make sure that used compressed save files has been turned off. Because if that's turned on, editing the save files, you'll go through this extra step, and there's just no point. So make sure that's turned off. Next thing you're going to need is some sort of text editor. Now you can use Notepad in Windows, but to be honest, if you can, I'd recommend getting Notepad++ or something similar, a more feature-rich, shall we say, text editor. And the final thing is some way of taking notes, because you're going to be doing a lot of searching for councillor names, country names and the like, so being able to just make a note of what they are is useful. You can just have a tab in Notepad++ to do it. That would do the job. But with that out of the way, let's kick off a 2070 scenario. Okay, so we are in the 27 scenario at the start. As you see, well, first obvious difference is you've got all this, which you don't have in the normal game. Also, if you look, well, we've already got the European Union, the Maghreb Union, Sahel Confederation. There's a lot more of the smaller nations have grouped together, especially in Africa. You know, you've got a bunch of just bigger groups. Same in South America. You've basically got Brazil and the South American Union. That little bit is part of the Caribbean community. Again, you haven't got all the little ones. And some of the other nations, even if they haven't been grouped up, have changed. So America's down to a democracy score of 5.9 and a cohesion of 0. So yeah, that makes things different. But some things are still the same. You've still got 2 councillors. Now, the first thing you want to be doing is making a note of everything, because if you're going to be editing the game files, you need to be able to find things. So you make a note of both your councillor names. You make a note of any councillors you're going to be interested in recruiting straight away, because if you're going to be editing, you can obviously increase your influence, and you're able to then actually recruit people straight away. So yeah, there's a couple that I'd be interested in: the engineer and the commando, just as an example. Likewise, you want to make a note of all your various facilities you've got, if you're going to want to be playing about with those. As you see, we're actually positive on all the off-space resources, but not massively so. You know, we're making 1.1 missiles a turn, and also we're actually negative on mission control, and likewise boost. So, first thing, obviously, you're going through it, you're making a note of everything, and then you save the game. Because if you're going to be editing the save file, you've got to have a save file to edit. So, I've gone through and done that off camera, because just clicking on things and me just writing things down or typing them out on a notepad is a bit boring. But I've done that off screen, so you don't have to. Okay, so I've saved the game, gave it the name Initiative 2070 Start, and in Windows Explorer I've navigated to Documents, My Games, Terra Invicta, saves, because that's where it puts the saves for you. And I've just sorted it by date, so the most recently edited file is the one at the top. I'm just going to right click on that and choose Edit with Notepad++. And this is one of the reasons why I prefer an editor like Notepad++ over Windows. It sort of partly color codes the values in the file depending on the file type, which makes it a bit easier to know if you've, for example, missed out a comma when you're editing things, because suddenly, oh, it's in a different color. It stands out. And if you notice here, these are all the notes I made. So our two counsellors, the two counsellors I'm interested in recruiting straight away, so therefore I probably want to buff them as well. Our initial ships, our initial bases, including how much they produce, and a country we're interested in starting with, basically, United States of America and its stats. So first things first, we want to get to the counsellors. So Control F4, go to the menu and find, and just type in Haley. So that was the name of the character, our counsellor, Haley Mottram. And there it is. You can check. Obviously, if you happen to have two counsellors with the same first name, it would it might not find the right one, but here we've got the right one. And the name of a counsellor is always actually towards the end. So her actual details are up here. So there you got her personal name and her family name. And her identifier, ID number behind the scenes. What faction she's with. When she was recruited, which is basically the very start of the game, in the case of your starting counsellors for obvious reasons. And her templates. This is one of the easiest things, her traits, one of the easiest things to edit and make people better is by giving them traits. Now, Striver is one of those great traits. If you are editing your counsellors to give them traits, I'd recommend giving them Striver, because it means that the XP cost for anything else you're buying, sort of you're doing for them, is reduced by 20%. You can add traits and remove traits. You add one, literally just put a comma, hit return for a new line. And here's another example of why I like using something like Notepad++. As I start typing, it's showing me matches that are already in the file. And just about every trait that you're going to want to give a counsellor is already in the file somewhere. So I'm wanting to give her innovative. It's one trait you won't see listed on the official wiki. There are a few like that, but innovative is a really good one. It basically increases the chance of a technology being unlocked for you. You know, there are some technologies that as soon as you complete the prerequisites, it's guaranteed that it's going to unlock. And there are others where it's not. Well, this increases that chance. You can hit tab rather than fully typing it out. Another double inverted comma, and bam, it's complete. She's now got that trait. She's got affluent there. Let's change that. She's actually really well off. Give her billionaire. Indulgent. Don't really like the idea of that. Let's remove that. And so on. You can do that for all the traits. There are some traits that have levels, so we can give her, say, social scientist. That would give her social scientist 1. If we wanted it to be the second level, we'd need to do that. And there's a third level as well. Normal starting characters don't have these at that level, which is why it wasn't showing in the file already. But we're hacking the file. We can cheat. Then you've got their attributes. These are straightforward. One thing to remember, the highest an attribute can be is 25. There are then modifiers on top of that. So I think academic reduces your command by 1. So you could have a command of 25, but the actual shown command would be 24. Important ones here, persuasion, administration, and command, they all govern the total number of control points that you can handle before you start getting penalised. Don't forget, if you're going to be giving yourself a big country at the start through hacking, make sure you've got enough control points to actually hold that country. So we can just go through and let's just increase all the stats by 10. Simple, straightforward, easy hack. Then you've got some stuff which at present is irrelevant because nothing's happened so far. Likewise, got no orgs. Location, again, hasn't changed. Date born. This is straightforward. And this is what governs the age. It's not a case of that it holds the, they're 27, say. That isn't held in the file. Instead, it holds the date they were born, and it works out what their age is. Change that from 2017 to 2047. Simple change. Likewise, you can change their starting XP. That XP can be used to increase stats, etc. And importantly, if they have Striver, yes, that applies to spending this XP as well. So that's that. And then we've got Karuna Bala, who's our next one. And again, his faction, 4810, same as Haley's, same faction. Similar sort of thing. You can go, oh, he hasn't got Striver. We want Striver. That's always good. And he likes watching the stars. Make him an astronomer. Or, in game terms, space scientist. Give him the same sort of buffs to his stats. Make him younger rather, because we don't want him keeling over, and give him a whole load of XP. That's the starting counsellors. Now, the counsellors we're looking at recruiting, let's look for Alois. There he is, Alois Kurz. Exactly the same sort of structure, except up here, where it said faction 4810 for the others, it says null at the moment because he hasn't been recruited. Got some nice skills here for Commando, but we don't like non grata. We want him to be able to operate everywhere. Family ties, that could be an issue. Well, let's lose that. We can give him a crew. Give him Striver. And make him a veteran, shall we? There we go. And likewise, we can buff his stats. Obviously, I couldn't add 10 to there because that would have taken it to 26, which is above the limit of 25. No idea what actually does happen if you do that in terms of gameplay, but I figure it's best not to break things. And the other difference is your starting councillors, their XP is dependent on their age, or at least they calculated XP. You know, I think it works it out. So if they're really young, they don't have much XP to spend initially. If they're that bit older, they've got a chunk of XP to spend at the start. But all your recruited councillors, they've got 0. But you can always give any councillors you're planning to recruit XP as well. And then we got Tonghua. There he is, Tonghua Lee. Again, his faction is null. Don't like anxious, don't like family ties. Quick learners, good, but striver would be better, so we can just replace that. Buff his. There we go. That's all of them. Next, we've done this, but we want to actually be able to recruit these. Now we only had 60 influence at the start, or about 70 actually, and it's 60 odd to recruit Alois, the commander. So we wouldn't be able to recruit both of these unless we were to hack our faction resources. So, best way to find the faction stats is actually search. If you search for just like the either the number or the name of the faction, well, that's going to find all sorts of stuff. But if you search for N Shipyard Q, that's basically a string that's right at the start of each faction. Now 4810 isn't the faction we want, so we just find next 489. So 4810, there we go. That's the one we want. You see, this one was Humanity First. You see, this is why it's useful to search just for that string to get to the start of each. Oops, overshot there. Search backwards. There we go. So yeah, you had resistance, you had Humanity First, and then us. These are the techs that have already been unlocked and how much we contributed to them. Effectively, no one's contributed to these because these are the ones we started with. It's a bit more than the normal game. So, for example, you've got space mining and refining, mass drivers, nuclear fission in space, etc. Because they're needed for the actual stuff we start with. But we want to scroll down. See the available orgs, the available councillors all listed. The ships we've got, the designs we've got at the moment, they're all listed here. We're not going to be playing with those at all. But in the resources section, you could just search for resources after you searched for in the shipyard queue and got to the right thing, just to get here quickly. So you can see what we've got. So, we've got now actually make that bigger, make that 1,000. There we go. Giving ourselves now a bunch of resources to start with, and we've edited the councillors. So if we now save this, you know that has gone red, and close it, because general rule of thumb, you don't want to have a file open in multiple places at once. And then we should be able to go back to the game and load that in. So, as you see, like always with Terra Invicta, when you load a save, it always comes back to sort of the view of the solar system like this. But if you look at our stats up here, we've now got a bunch more than we had. We've still got the issue with mission control, but we haven't got around to editing our station yet. And we've got a bunch of resources there. If we go to the council, we've only got far higher stats. And look at all that XP we've got. And we can go and recruit a commando for 60 influence because we've got plenty. And we can recruit the engineer. There we go. Now I've got 5, and again these guys have come with some XP. As you see, I gave Hayley Social Scientist 2, and that's translated as Senior Social Scientist. And if you look at Augment, she can upgrade to Chief Sociologist. And basically, all the science, there's one trait for each science which gives you a boost to it, and has 3 levels and works the same way. Astronomer is the space science one, for example. So astronomer gives you 15% space science research and 5 science income. I can upgrade that to senior astronomer. That increases your science by 1 and gives you 25% research and 10 income. And the top level one is 2 to science, 35 science research to the relevant science research, 2 influence and 20 science. So yeah, the high level can be quite nice, but it's also, in a normal game, it takes you a bit of time to get to. Obviously here, well, we gave ourselves a whole load of XP at the start, so it's a bit easier for us to get to. Now that's that's sort of our councillors and our faction resources sort of sorted, but we've still got a couple of other things we want to try and do. Can we make these better? And can we get a starting country? And that's what we'll be looking at next time.